Hey guys, welcome into the Bear With Us podcast. I'm Jack. He is Frank. Nas, he found the nearest L and decided to jump off from there, and he landed safely into his Uber ride, and he just didn't want to talk about the game this week. So unfortunately, Nas won't be here to discuss what the fuck we just saw this previous game. Bears lose to the Patriots 3-19. Uh, I'll say this, Frank. I'm just going to start off here. I know we want to talk some bigger picture stuff, but just for the sake of the game, I remember at the end of the podcast last week, we were talking about how the Bears or the Patriots or the Bears, excuse me, were favored to beat the Patriots, and I remember asking you, how confident do you feel on that? And both of us were kind of like, I don't really know. And I thought we were kind of being a little ridiculous, but apparently we were both fucking spot on because that was, I mean, that's got to be the most disappointing game since what, the Packers game last year? Maybe the Titans game this year. Where does this rank on your on your disappointment meter, Frank?
Well, it's tough because there's been a lot of disappointments, but specifically with the Eberflus, like the Eberflus regime, it's certainly top five. Packers week one last year was absolutely the number one. Because again, what we always say is it's not about winning and losing. It was the way that they lost that game. Like it was like clear from week one they were not anywhere near the stratosphere of the Packers, who, that I think the reason why that one reigns supreme is the rest of that year. Well, I should say the first half of that year, the Packers were not a good football team. Like that should have been a team we should have been at least more competitive with. So to see Jordan Love struggle against everybody but the Bears defense up until about week 10, that made that even worse. So yeah, this is in the conversation, but it's like, it was also like, I don't think we picked, but I would have picked the Bears to win in like an ugly 12-9 type of game. But it's not shocking that they lose to anybody. I mean, look at where we're at in the season.
Can I just say something about that, what you just said? I'm going to be real with you, Frank. I think while you and I were both kind of like, I don't know how confident I feel about that, about that spread or whatever it is, but I'm a little shocked, if I can be honest, that it was that bad. And the reason why, that we've seen this specific team, beat the brakes off of bad teams. And the Patriots are right up there with the Panthers, with the Jaguars. Like they're up there, if not even worse. And to just do that, like you had those great 3 weeks, you hit the bye, you're feeling good, you go to Washington, you play like shit, you almost win, and you just basically you're that Hail Mary. I think it's very obvious and clear that Hail Mary just destroyed this team.
Yeah.
Just has absolutely killed this team. And I think it's absolutely absurd about how fragile of a team that you have to have something like a play like that just to completely destroy your mentality. And a big part of that, obviously, is your head coach just refusing to take accountability in the moment, act like a human being, realize what we're all seeing. For him to do that, and then that just completely broke the locker room, right? We've seen guys questioning coaches. We've seen players questioning coaches. We've seen coaches pushing back, telling guys, hey, please keep it in the locker room, et cetera, et cetera. And this team just has not recovered. They haven't scored a touchdown in 2 games now. What is it? 23 straight drives without a touchdown in 2 games. And you and Nas were talking about it during the game. It could be a lot worse because they only scored that late touchdown against Washington, right? They scored at the end of the game, that touchdown. So it could technically be a lot worse, which is just super disappointing, obviously. It's not good, Frank. This offense is completely broken. Matt Eberflus, he has just done nothing at all to inspire any sort of confidence in any facet of the game. And just thinking back to our offseason questions about Ryan Poles deciding to stick with this guy, it's just so frustrating. It's just so disappointing. It's just so Bears that instead of talking about the game, we're now back to, well, is it the play caller? Is it the quarterback? Is it the wide receivers? Is it the offensive line? Is it coaching? Like, it's just, we're right back here. We're
Yep.
right back doing the same podcast. Another quarterback getting sacked 9 times. A rookie quarterback, to make it even worse, getting sacked 9 times. It's just, I mean, it's frustrating. It's just so frustrating.
It is. And I mean, the resounding point that I want to make in this podcast episode is Matt Eberflus is a fucking coward. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it's for some of the things that you touched on, the my biggest takeaway from what you just said was for a team and a locker room to be that fragile, that a lucky play like that just totally breaks you in the manner that it did, is very similar to the way that Matt Nagy, the double doink, broke him. You have to be very fragile at one moment do that to you, right? And there's a trickle down effect there. But I remember, Jack, that at the Washington game, and this bled into the Arizona game, which, again, these last 2 weeks, we've not talked much about the games themselves because there's nothing to analyze. But after the Washington game, remember I told you, like, even it gets batted down, they win. I still have a lot of concerns coming out of that, with my biggest one being the physicality. Just the Bears not being physical, not being a tough football team. And we're seeing that trickle down even further, to your point of them being very fragile. Like, this is rearing its ugly head. And what we keep saying is that starts with the coach. It's almost like, your kid's not going to be good at school if the parents suck. Like, if they're not instilling anything with them at home. And it's like that same sort of, I guess it's analogous. It's not the same. But he gets up at the press conference today, Jack, and literally this is, I don't like, I'm usually like well, this could happen, that could happen. And there's sort of 5 different ways you can slice a fruit or whatever. There's only one thing that should have happened after that game. Literally right after the game, either before or after that plane lands, fuck on the plane. You tell Shane Waldron you're not the guy anymore. We'll discuss retaining you in a different role here. Maybe you get downgraded to the passing game coordinator or whatever, but you're no longer calling plays. And you make that decision before the end of the day Sunday, and then Monday you come to the press conference and you say Shane Waldron has been relieved of his duties either as OC and he's gone, or as play caller and he's the blah 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 now, he's the water boy, whatever. Thomas Brown or Joseph Carey is your play caller for the rest of the year. Kerry Joseph, I'm sorry. And not only does he not do that, and again, like, Jack, if you feel different, I would love to hear it, but from anyone else, I will hear no pushback from that, because that's exactly what should have happened. There's no way you leave that game and there's any other outcome as the head coach other than that. But not only does he not do that, he gets up at the press conference and he continues to talk about this process. But and it's like, if we were, the Patriots back in the day, if we're the Chiefs and you're looking at all this success and you're like, you know what, I have faith in that. I get why he's telling me about the process, because the process brought us all the success and all these rings. Their process has got us 2 of the worst offensive coordinators in our lives. Their process has gotten us to trade 2nd-round picks for Chase Claypool. Like, there's zero faith in your process, dude. So you either come to us and you give us finite, in your face, here's what's happening, or you just continue to do what you're doing and buy time until you're fired, because that's what it looks like you're doing. And it's pure cowardice. And the reason why, I guess the cherry on top of it all, is that he didn't say, well, me and Poles have got to sit down, me and Kevin Warren. He said, no, this choice is all me. This next OC play calling decision is all on me. That's my job. Well, stop pussyfooting around, dude. What are you scared of? But we've talked about this, though, Jack, about this accountability thing. He does this. He's been doing this since day one. He talks about execution. He talks about this. He's starting to do it's all on me now. It's too late. He knows it's too late. That's why he's doing it. It's to sort of save face at that point. But we've seen it at every single level of ineptitude, that he just has no accountability, and he keeps going to this process that we've gotten nothing out of.
Right, and that is completely correct. Him, when he said, I take accountability for it's all on me, and a reporter followed up and said, well, what specifically? And he just says everything. So when you say that tells me that you don't take accountability for anything, and you're just saying it, like you just said. It's lip service. He's had conversations with Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, the PR guys. Hey, this is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. But it's so obvious he doesn't feel it. And I'm so sick of Bears head coaches gaslighting their fan base, acting like we're just not smart enough to understand, to read the room, when you actively have guys leave not in the locker room after games that are usually there. I'm looking at Jalen Johnson. Like their beat reporters made it very clear that that's something he always does. He always talks, and he was out. And then what does he do the next day? He's asked a question on the radio, and he says, the question was, hey, are there guys not working as hard? And he says, yeah, that's obvious. And they're like, well, what would you say to that? And he's just like, I've been trying to figure that out. And it's just like, that's a broken locker room.
Yeah.
Right? And the way that Eberflus is talking, like you just mentioned, he's talking about the process. He's talking about, we're keeping everything in house. We're doing this. It's all on me. It's Matt Nagy again. It's a guy who is so far in over his head, who has no answers, who's getting asked about what those answers look like, and he has no response. And it's just so obvious that this guy is just so done. And honestly, I think what's the most disappointing is, other than the fact that we saw this coming a mile away, as soon as he was retained, this was our biggest fear, right? They had an opportunity to reset the clock, hire a head coach that was going to be brought in at the same time as the quarterback, maybe even give whoever's coming in the opportunity to give some different opinions on other quarterbacks. And I'm not saying that they made a mistake drafting Caleb Williams. Anybody saying that, just stop, please. Jaden Daniels would not be Jaden Daniels on this specific Bears team. Drake May wouldn't. Bo Nix wouldn't. Just stop. It's so absolutely ridiculous. And again, it's what's most disappointing about this is it's just Bears. When Ryan Poles came in, he said, I'm not beholden to history. I don't care about the history of this team. I'm going to do my own thing. It's going to be different. And we took him at his word. He did some things that you and I agreed with, did some things that you and I didn't agree with, but ultimately he set this thing up to where a majority of Bears fans, you and myself included, especially on this podcast, said that this is absolutely the best situation for a rookie quarterback, the first overall pick to be stepping into. And now it's this. And now we're talking about firing the offensive coordinator. We're talking about the head coach just, again, being a lame duck. It's just 2021 all over again. And now it's like all of that goodwill that Ryan Poles has built is now also being questioned, because it's like what you just said. Matt Eberflus said this is all on me. No, I don't care what is in his contract. I don't care what decisions have been made that gives Matt Eberflus this kind of power. Ryan Poles needs to step in and say, no, this is my first overall pick. You're going to do what I'm telling you to do. And they need to have that conversation together, because Matt Eberflus is a guy who just has not figured anything out.
Yeah.
He had a defensive coordinator, Frank, get let go, and we still don't know why.
We don't know why.
Kind of know why. He had a running back coach get let go, and we don't know why.
Yeah.
He's had an offensive coordinator get fired who went to another team who got fired midseason. He's now had another offensive coordinator. They went all over the country to find Shane Waldron. And what, like a week after hiring him at the Super Bowl, the CHGO podcast asked Jackson Smith and Jigba about Shane Waldron. Like, oh man, Bears fans are excited. Like, tell us what he's like. And he's just like, is this live? And they're like, I mean, kinda, yeah. And he just said, well, he's a great guy. And at that point, I was just like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, and it's, it sort of adding on to your point about Poles taking some sort of control. I don't know what the right word would be, but part of that to me would also be what, we have to have a new play caller. It just is what it is. But secondly, you are not in these offensive meeting rooms any longer, because while Getsy, I think, was just bad. I think we all gave them the benefit of the doubt in saying, like, we were on a rush timeline to hire the OC. Okay, fine. I don't buy that necessarily, but that's a good excuse. Okay. This go round, we both already talked about this process that they went around the country. They were flying people in, they were flying to people, having in-depth conversations. I mean, I think they had 3 interviews with the finalists. Yeah, I forgot who the other finalist was, but I mean, these were extensive talks to find their guy.
Kingsbury, who looks a lot better than Shane Waldron.
Yeah, Kingsbury with this college offense. And the problem is, I don't think Waldron was perfect in Seattle. We're NFL fans. We've watched the league before. Now, again, I brought up Getsy because we don't have anything to reference it. This was the first time he ever called plays, was when he was in Chicago. Shane Waldron, him coming here, I watched a lot more tape in depth. I read articles of their beat reporters, and really, like, the thing that has remained is, like, he gets cute in situations where he doesn't need to, and that's very frustrating. I feel like every OC, it's in their contract to have like 20 cute plays a season. So that's going to come with frustration. It's no excuse. But it never, ever, ever, ever looked like this. We have a point of reference with Shane Waldron for a couple of years in Seattle. And that to me, because it's looking like a little bit different, but it's looking a lot like the Getsy offense with a little less running because you don't have Justin Fields back there, who was an elite running quarterback. The screens in weird situations, the weird route concepts, he never had any of those issues in Seattle. So to me, when I think of the CEO of the team, who he calls himself that numerous times, he has his hand in this. This is also Eberflus' doing. Again, I'm not excusing Shane Waldron. He also needs to be relieved of his duties, whether it be OC or play calling. But we're seeing the same exact results because of the head coach. We're seeing, I mean, listen, I don't know how deep we're getting in today, because I hope this gets, the ship gets righted with a new play caller and less Matt Eberflus influence. But I'm also seeing a guy in this 9-game sample size that's scared to pull the trigger. I also saw another guy who was scared to pull the trigger with the same head coach because all he fucking preaches is 1940s, the Third Reich offense. We can't turn the ball over. We can't fucking just take care of the ball. No, sling that bitch. When you see DJ Moore break, sling it, and you're seeing him hesitate. That's not Caleb Williams, dude. We all watched his fucking film. We watched his film at USC. We watched him in the preseason. We watched him in the first couple of weeks, even though it didn't always look pretty. He was slinging that motherfucker. And like to a point where he was anticipating throws at a level where we're like, wow, once they get on the same page, this could really be good. He's no longer anticipating anything. That is being coached out of him, just like it went. And again, I'm not defending Justin. He had other faults. But we saw year 1 in Nagy. And again, it's not to say Nagy should have still been there, but Justin was making tight window throws. There were seam throws. You're like, man, okay. He wasn't consistent, but there was like a handful of throws a game where you're like, this guy might be the guy. And I feel like we saw the same thing. We even saw full halves in games with Caleb Ruddy. We're like, wow, I think we got our guy. And now we're in week 9, and it's the same hesitancy with throwing the football. This is the same story. Eberflus has to go.
Yeah, and I think especially on the offensive side of the ball, where you're seeing a lot of that hesitation. And once again, I'll shout out Tim Jenkins. He does a great job breaking it down. Just all things QB is his YouTube channel, I believe. He's phenomenal. A lot of the stuff that he is seeing, especially on some of those missed throws, is just the footwork isn't quite correct. He's not dropping. He's not doing the right drop. So like if it's a 3-step drop, he's doing maybe like 1 and a skip and then he'll throw. And it's throwing off the rhythm of the offense. Guys aren't in the right spot. So when he's ready, he's loaded and ready to throw. Guys aren't where they're supposed to be. That's coaching. To me, that's clear as day coaching. And you think back to some of the things earlier in the season where, Mercedes Lewis, who I could not believe that he got a shout out on the broadcast during the game. I don't understand the fascination with this guy. He doesn't play. Let it go. Anyway,
they love him.
If you recall, he was saying, yeah, we need to be coached harder.
Yeah.
And so like when you start adding these things up, Rome is on a curl route. He goes on the inside of the route. Caleb throws the outside of the curl route, and it's he misses them. How many times have we seen that this year where it's just guys are just not on the same page? The defense gives you great starting field position and you just waste it. You absolutely blow it. off to another slow start, and obviously it ended up being a slow overall game for this Bears offense. It's just weird. And Frank, through 9 games, so last year with Justin, this year with Caleb. Last year, the Bears through 9 games had scored 22.9 points per game, 210 passing yards per game, 14 passing touchdowns, with a passer rating of 83.2. This year, with, it's not even a question, significantly better talent, the Bears have 1 less point per game. They have 12 less passing yards per game. They have 5 less passing touchdowns, and they have a passer rating of 81, so 2 less.
Yeah.
So this offense, it's not speculation. This offense is worse than it was last year. And to me, that's completely unacceptable.
I agree.
When you have all of these resources that you've put into Swift, Rome, trading a pick for Keenan Allen, signing DJ to an extension. If I'm Ryan Poles, I'm sitting Eberflus down, I'm sitting Waldron, and just being like, what is this? What are we doing here? It's crazy.
It is. And the retort to those stats that I'm going to, I don't know, shoot down is, offense is down all over the league. That's true. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Fuck the stats. Look at the product on the field. Getsy had some awful plays, but again, what we've talked about, it was there last week. I don't know if we texted or I don't know. I've had this conversation with you. Getsy was bad for different reasons, but first of all, the first 15 were in the same ballpark as Nagy. They were usually very good. They scored a lot on the first drive. In-game adjustments were probably one of his weaker points, but there were just like the weird screen passes. But even those, there was like a plan to it all. Like plays branched off of each other. We even had like 2 or 3 plays a game where Cole Kmet is wide the fuck open and like, here's a 40-yard touchdown that Justin's rolling left and Cole Kmet sprinkles right. And he's like, there was these little bits of brilliance. And again, I'm not looking back and like, we should have kept Getsy and he was so good. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is the baseline of a bad OC was like so much higher than what we have right now. Because again, throw the stats out of the window. The things that you've touched on, the things that Nas was touching on last week, the things that I've touched on. I mean, we've all touched on it in some capacity. They're not on the same page ever. And like, I know people want to, it has to be Rome's fault, or it has to be Keenan's fault, or it has to be Caleb's fault. And it's like, both of the quarterback and the receiver can be wrong, but it's up to the coaches to get that corrected. Like week 1 and week 2, okay, I get it. The preseason's a joke now. You don't do much. I understand not being on the same page. Week 9, I mean, even by like week 3 or 4, we were seeing that. And we're like, dude, what is happening right now? Like some of the egregious overthrows by Caleb or just him and the receivers not being on the same page whatsoever. And I sort of, as I'm looking at games, the one thing that we have been consistently impressed by, and I still am, is Caleb's ability to diagnose things pre-snap and change out of plays. And it's worked more times than not. I would have to like really tally it up to see, but visually it just looks like it has worked more times than not. Because you even see it like he checks out of a pass play for a run play. We saw this last week and it worked. Like he knows what he's seeing. But I think it was Nas. He just said it last week on the pod, or he texted us. But it's so fucking true. They're treating Caleb, because of the high IQ that he has, like he's a 10-year vet. Take the option out sometimes, man. So even the option routes, if you see it's not working after week 5, week 6, week 7, cut it the fuck out. But it feels like every route is an option. Every single route is an option. It's like, like we all like, okay, if you have Brady and Edelman, just 2 high IQ dudes who just know, or Brady and Gronk, or Kelsey and Mahomes, like these guys are like, and I'm not saying that people we have on our team are not that. They could be, but it's not working is all I'm saying. Like it's the most frustrating thing to watch. So I guess I built up a straw man just in case anyone to be like, forget the stats. Like it's offense is down, and that's true, but just watch the games. Just watch them. They never looked this out of sync with Getsy. A lot of it was like bozo play calls on 3rd and long or 3rd and 2, a swing, 3 straight screens. Like there was a lot of bad, but it was never this discombobulated. This just looks, I mean, it looks like they're just, what is it when you like spin a globe and you just throw a fucking dart? Like, all right, that's the play now. We're rolling with that one. Nothing branches off of it. last point with all of that, Jack, is we're seeing the most, we got beat by the most basic of offenses, which a rookie should probably be in. You're not always going to get Cliff Kingsbury or, one of the best play callers in the league or anything, but they literally did it on that touchdown pass to Polk. The play before that was a handoff, same, get stuffed and maybe got a yard, same exact formation. They run a play off of that because they just stuffed the run. They sold out for the run. They're like, all right, well, they sell out for the run. We're going to do this. I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, I know you're frustrated with Caleb, and we're all frustrated with different things, but we don't have basic. Look what they just did to us. We don't have anything that branches off of it, and there's no flow, there's no rhythm, there is no, I have 4 plays out of the bunch right formation or whatever formation, and depending on what the defense is giving me, we can set something up for later in the game. There's nothing like that. Even Getsy had that. I guess that's my ultimate point. It's even a bad OC had that. It's embarrassing what we're witnessing.
They're also not adjusting to what we're seeing on the field, where I think execution is also a very key factor. And I know we've had our obvious, we've made it very clear how we feel about coaching. The players are not exempt from this in any sort of facet. The players are also not playing very good. And one thing that we've seen consistently is Shane Waldron really likes to run these bubble screens that, he's a Bears offensive play caller. He has to have a bubble screen implemented. We have to see it. One thing this team does so poorly, and I'm not all that surprised, to be honest with you, don't block well. The receivers, the tight ends, Gerald Everett is a terrible blocker. Keenan Allen, it's never been one of his strong suits. I genuinely do not understand how they're using Keenan Allen. So he's not adjusting to what we're seeing on the field. And I'm going to say something that might sound crazy given all of the years of terrible offenses that we've had in the city. That sprint out to the left is the worst play I've ever seen run by a Bears team.
Just from a design standpoint, I want to make sure that, because people are going to be like, oh, the 3 straight. There would have been bad. Just look at the whole design of the thing.
Don't come at me with your facts and your numbers and your.
I'm just saying someone's going to say something was situationally worse. What about the handoff to Doug Kramer? No. That's just a fullback dive. But this design wise, take it away, Jackie.
Design wise is one of the worst design plays I've ever, because I've watched it 3 or 4 times and I genuinely cannot figure out where Caleb is supposed to go with the football. DJ's, they're running to the left. DJ's he's just kind of standing there covered. Keenan is running some weird pattern where he's double teamed. There's literally nowhere to go with the football. And the amount of times that, I get it. Caleb absolutely did not have a good game.
No.
Right. You will not make that argument. I will not make that argument that he had a good game. It was a very disappointing game from his perspective. Some of those sacks, while they may, in the moment while you're watching on TV, you're like, dude, Caleb, geez, you got to get rid of the football. There were a couple times, absolutely, he should have gotten rid of the football. There were a couple options that he couldn't, chose not to go to. But if you look at the all 22 and you really look what concepts the receivers are being asked to run, a lot of it is just hoping Caleb will just take a chance. Here's the biggest disconnect, Frank, for me. And it's something you talked about. A lot of the concepts we're seeing are relying on wide receivers winning their routes. Now, you're not going to win every single route, regardless of who you are. Our wide receivers are not playing super well. They're not creating a ton of separation. So basically what a lot of people are asking, and Bears fans specifically are asking Caleb to do, give your guys a chance, right? These are Keenan Allen, Rome. One of their best strong suits are 50-50 balls. They will go and make a play for you. Where the disconnect, I think, is happening is, like you said, Matt Eberflus is so terrified of giving his defense a short field, asking his he's so terrified of turning the football over that Caleb isn't making those 50-50 throws. He's not giving those guys a chance because it's being coached into him. You can't turn the ball over. This was my biggest concern with keeping a lame duck head coach, because Matt Eberflus, he's sacrificing everything else to win by any means. He has to win to keep his job, right? We'd agree with that. He has to make the playoffs. This is so Matt Nagy in 2021, where it's like the development of the quarterback is not what's going to save his job. He felt that wins were going to save his job. That's why we're seeing Andy Dalton. That's why we're seeing Nick Foles. He didn't care if Justin wasn't developed, right? Like that wasn't going to save his job. At least he felt that way. It's the same thing right now with Caleb Williams, where at least, I mean, yeah, Caleb is playing, but he's not playing his strengths. He's not doing what made him special in college. And that's where the disconnect is happening for me. The receivers are not creating separation. They're not playing up to the level that you and I, Nas, Bears fans, thought that they would. It's DJ Moore. It's Keenan Allen. It's Rome Odunze. They just got outplayed by Jalen fucking Polk, who caught a touchdown pass.
And Demario Douglas, baby.
And and Pop Douglas. And Hunter Henry. And Austin fucking Hooper. The corpse of Austin Hooper.
Oop.
So it's just, it's so many levels to this thing, where it's just anybody who's saying that the Bears drafted the wrong quarterback or Caleb sucks. They're just, I get it. So it's easy to be frustrated. It's easy to feel like we've been here before, and we have in many different ways. I'm not there with the quarterback yet. And it's hard to evaluate him when these types of things are going on. And you have a left guard who just cannot stay healthy. Like, they can't re-sign Tevin Jenkins at this point. He's out, right? Like, he's done.
Yeah,
you're missing no starting tackles. Ryan Poles in the offseason said, I've never felt this good about the depth of our offensive line. What the fuck is he talking about? He did nothing at the center position. His fucking right guard that he spent big money on, Nate Davis, came to the
He doesn't like football.
Nah, I'm not playing. You guys have benched me these last. I'm not playing. No, my back hurts. And we sent him home because he couldn't be standing on the side. Dude, get the fuck out of here with this nonsense, Frank.
It's funny. You've hearkened back to Matt Nagy quite a few times, and this isn't any sort of pushback. Can I present to you why this is actually Mark Trestman?
Please, I would love to hear it. So,
obviously, the years don't exactly match up, but tossing year one out of the window, I mean, every coach wins 3 games that year. It was such a bad team. But what we saw was a guy who is very clearly good at running what he does well. Mark Trestman, those 2 years, high flying, high scoring offense. That never went away, even in year 2 when it was a dumpster fire. Essentially the same thing with Eberflus. Since the middle of last year, it's been an elite defense. This defense still isn't gone anywhere. The only thing they didn't do yesterday was create turnovers. Well, they got an interception, but you'd like maybe a few more off a rookie.
One of the easiest interceptions they'll probably see all year.
Yeah, exactly. But the defense is still playing very well. Like, it's the offense who's not upholding themselves. And
correct.
He also has just absolutely lost the locker room. These guys have no respect for him at all. Versus, like, I don't know if Nagy ever truly lost them. He was a people's person. Like, I think they genuinely liked him as a man. That's what I mean. Like, he made it fun. He was really cool. Now, they weren't winning football games towards the end, but it never felt like they gave up like this. That's, to me, just screams Trestman. There's so many parallels there. The defense is still doing their thing because we know what we signed up for. We signed up for a defensive coordinator. The offense with Trestman, we know what we signed up for, a really good play caller, really good play designs. Both guys clearly are not leaders of men. Social media wasn't as big then, and like radio hits weren't as big then. So you're not seeing Jalen Johnson go and talk, about have they lost the locker room. DJ Moore isn't like, what did they ask him? Like, do you think he still has the attention of all 52? And he's like, I kind of want to say yeah. And it's like those types of drops. That wasn't happening, which is honestly kind of crazy because they had personality on that 2014 team. I don't know how, or what was it, 2013, whatever, with Bennett and Marshall and such. But, we're seeing, to me, that is the more parallel of it all, is because Matt Nagy just wound up being a fraud. He wasn't the offensive genius we were sold on being, and it was what it was, but he was a very good locker room culture guy. This guy, I mean, it's because, again, we're seeing it, like, to a point, year 2, they still were like, what, the 5th, 6th highest scoring offense in the league? And they were, like, literally historically bad on defense, 2 straight years. And this is the same thing. We're on our way to being I don't know about historically bad on offense, but very, very fucking bad on offense. And the defense is still like, all right, 19 points a game, 17 points a game. Like, they're just still doing their thing. They're just still humming. And this to me feels a lot like Trestman. These guys have lost respect for him. It's bad. It's very, very bad.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're seeing Matt Eberflus keeping his quarterback, his rookie quarterback, out at the end of the game, and it's just like, I truly, you watch that last drive. Now I don't know how many Bears fans genuinely were. I was because I can't stop. I don't know why I do this to myself, but it's like he gets sacked, and then the very next play, a safety just screams up the middle of the field and just sacks him, like, easily, untouched. And it's just like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why is Matt Eberflus allowed to make these decisions? He's earned nothing. He's proved nothing. He's done nothing. And I really do think these guys have quit on him because, I listen to a lot of the, especially on games like that, I listen to a lot of the post-game podcasts or radio shows, whatever. And a lot of the, former Bears players, obviously they always like to talk about Lovey and how he would handled certain things. And while I'm tired of hearing about Lovey and going back to, Ron Rivera and all this shit, like, Bears fans just love to do, that can never move forward. It's just so obvious that at least Lovey had proven himself as a head coach. He's earned the respect of those players. And Matt Eberflus, while he might be a good guy, he might be a good locker room guy, whatever, that was one of the things that we praised him for, was the culture he had set. Can't say that anymore when you're having all of these pre-snap penalties. I think they've had the most in the league, most pre-snap penalties. Like, if not the most, they're definitely up there. And that's just not something we've seen with this team under Matt Eberflus. So it's a huge concern. Absolutely is. And it's just so obvious that things have completely gotten off the rails. And I genuinely cannot believe they ran one play inside the 30-yard line, inside the Patriots 30-yard line. Patriots, who were 2-7, by the way. They lost. They got smoked. This game was never close. It's 19-3. They scored 3 points on this team. I can't wrap my head around how this is acceptable. How Matt Eberflus was allowed to have a press conference today. How he's allowed to make the decision on the next play caller. How he was not fired. Like, we were told this was different by polls, by Kevin Warren. This was supposed to be different, and unfortunately, we all got suckered in, and we truly should have known better. I think there were a lot of Bears fans, respectively, who did kind of roll their eyes, who were a little bit nervous at the prospect of things changing, things being different. Matt Eberflus actually getting fired midseason. It's just so disappointing that, like, this was a season that was built on hope. And we haven't even started the division games, and the season is over. Like, I truly don't know how we got. And again, this team is 4-5. It's not like they're 1-8, right? But it feels like they're 1-8 because it's just like we're right back to the same thought process we had last year, where it's like, I don't care about anything else. I want to see the development of the quarterback. And now we're right back there again.
Yeah.
With better players, with just better quality coaches, at least we assumed. Like, the drop-off for Shane Waldron is something that I am truly stunned by. Or would you say you're stunned by his drop-off?
100%.
Or is this something that you maybe expected?
No. 100%.
Like, he was a good play caller. And then he just comes to Chicago and just, he loses his brain. I truly don't understand how we got here. I guess I should, because we kept the head coach that you and I were just screaming for him to be fired.
Yep. And that's what I was just going to say. And I honestly think it's my last point because I feel like I'm saying the same thing, but like rewording it. But
that's every podcast now.
No, I know. I know.
Episode.
But yeah, but what you just said, it's because we kept the head coach. Deeper than that, what you also just said, it's because it's the same old shit every time. And listen, honestly, I want to take back something that I had said. Not that I ever agreed with it, but I at least was able to give Poles and whoever else was the decision maker in that the benefit of the doubt in keeping Eberflus. I would have fired him. I would have fired him and hired Ben Johnson. That's just what I would have done if I was in that position. But, the benefit of the doubt portion was like, you know what? He never had a good roster. The one thing that we've talked about, in so many words is like, yeah, like, you want the optics to look good for around the league. That's why you like take less for Justin, agents talk and this things talk and it all sounded good. It really, it truly did. And part of me still understands it. I no longer empathize with that point. This is a fucking cutthroat business at the end of the day. And again, I almost feel like, not almost, I know in those moments, I was almost like presenting the argument of like the why. Why could this have happened? Why did you keep Eberflus in a lame duck year, essentially? But I mean, look at what the fucking Patriots, and I'm not like advocating for anything like that. They were cutting players before the Super Bowl. Like, like important player. They sat Malcolm Butler for whatever fucking reason because he missed the meeting or something that week. Like, they made, and they were notorious for selling players earlier than you would think, just so, they'd rather sell too soon than sell too late. Like, you have to be super fucking cutthroat when it comes to this. And when you talk about, Poles sold us on being different, and Kevin Warren is selling us on being different. You're 100% right. That's exactly what they sold us on, but we're seeing the same exact thing. Yep. Oh, well, the Bears aren't, and I've said this too, and it's more of like acceptance. It's not that I don't want it to happen. It's, oh, well, the Bears never fire some coach mid-season. Okay, be different then. Be the difference that you're telling us. Right. Oh, the Bears, never, it's about optics. They don't want to optically look, okay, fuck them. Fuck that. Because now the next coach knows he has a bigger leash than he may need to. Like, things need to happen. Like, fucking say what you will. I damn near would rather have David Tepper at owner. At least he's going to make a fucking change. And we can, like, spin ourselves and make content out of it. What do we do with this? Part of my frustration is I feel like I've seen this growth as a streamer as well. I'm like a very niche-minded person. If you ask me about something, I don't want to talk about the larger overarching. I want to talk about the small, minute stuff and have fun with it. Like, what is this small thing that you liked and this small thing that you disliked? And like, let's talk about how can things get better? Where could we go? And, me, you, and Nas were like talking like, man, it's a shame that we get the views that we do. And we're appreciative for everyone who does watch and listen. And like, I came to the realization, I was like, it's because we're saying what everyone else is saying because there's nothing else to say about this fucking team. It's not our fault. We like in the offseason when we get creative and fun, like it's so fun. We like that's and our views kind of go up because we're just like bullshitting and like talking about random things and like people find it entertaining. What can we do in that realm? Like, what are we going to talk? Oh, like let's deep dive into the development of Javon Dexter in week 9. Like, look at this swim move. Come on, dude. It's ridiculous that we're at this point. And it's funny because I told you in that same text thread, I was like, yeah, like, we can't say anything different. It's not that we're taking other people's takes. It's literally there's nothing else to say because I do not listen to other Bears podcasts prior to us recording. I don't want my brain to be diluted. But then I go and we do this, and then Tuesday on my ride to the office, and when I'm like, doing my email thing in the office, I'm listening to Hogan Johns and other one. I'm like, I said that exact same thing yesterday. That's exactly what I said. And they have more access than us. And it's like, again, it's not to act like I'm just as smart as them but like there's literally nothing else. If you follow this team for any point in time, it's the same shit.
Yeah. And I just cannot believe that we're at a point where this isn't fun.
Yeah.
Like this was set up to be, forget like the playoff stuff. Like, even though we had kind of all agreed that this was a playoff team at the beginning of the season. Forget that. Like, I thought regardless of what happened, at least we were going to have some fun. At least we were going to have an offense that could put up some points. And it's just the fact that it's this broken and this just obscene that we like can't even watch the entire game because you're just like, what am I looking at? Like, that's to me what's so disappointing. And on top of that, not only am I just so disappointed in the offense performance and just not, how it's just not a fun team to watch right now. I'm also disappointed in the GM that we have because we were on top of the world. He made the greatest trade in the history of the NFL. Got all this play, got all these players, he got all these picks, he did this, he did that, I got the quarterback, like all of this stuff. And now it's like, not only am I not even questioning, I'm just out on the head coach. I'm also now questioning the GM. Like, do I think he should be fired? Probably not, right? But like, you have to question a lot of the things that he's done when it comes to talent evaluation, when it comes to coaching evaluation. I understand. I know what people are thinking because I'm thinking it myself. It's kind of like Ryan Pace, John Fox. Hey, this is going to be your head coach, right? This is what it is. Here you go. Here's some finalists. Pick one. Oh, they just happen to have the same agent. And also Shane Waldron also has that same agent. It's like, but at some point, like Ryan Poles, if this is his team, he needs to step in and make some fucking changes himself, make some decisions on himself. Forget where this train of thought is going. Forget the structure that you've built. It's not working. And you're just costing yourself the opportunities, the belief around in the building amongst yourselves. Like, it's not good. And I can't believe I'm questioning Ryan Poles. I never in a million years would have said that we would get to that point this season. There was nothing he could have done to make me get to this point. And yet, going into week 11, here I am. Because it's Packers week. We're not even preparing for the Packers because our head coach is spending a day, 2 days figuring out who's going to be calling plays. So he's not running the defense. He's not watching tape on the Packers. He's trying to figure out how this offense will work moving forward. I mean, this might be one of the worst Packers games of all time, and I don't care what the score is. Like, they might lose by 10, and I would still say it's going to be one of the worst Packers games. I know there was that 6 touchdown first half game for Aaron Rodgers. It might be worse than that, Frank. Just feeling wise.
There's a real listen when you talk about how the worries and how bad situationally Eberflus is. LaFleur is not that, and he's a very good game planner. This defense isn't gonna. We have nothing to offer against an offensive mind that does what Matt LaFleur does. Like our only chance is Malik Willis being in there, and I would still favor the Packers. Like if Jordan Love is held, I know he's been
Malik
hurt.
Willis is undefeated, baby.
He is, but I don't think. I know, but I don't think he does. For as good as LaFleur is, I don't know if he. I think they still win because they can run the ball down our throats. But I'd like our chances better. Jack, you did actually spark a thought in my mind. If going into the year, yeah, and you do it quite often, Jack. You're a good orator. Going into the year, I think we all expected Eberflus to be fired after this season, barring a late playoff push. Maybe even then, hell, Super Bowl, yeah. So we're on the same page. Let's live in that world where we're back in August and we just accept Eberflus is gone. What you just said, I think we both agree with as well, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. Ryan Poles doesn't get fired in this situation. He gets to fire Eberflus. He picks the new head coach, correct?
Correct.
In that scenario, you envision Ryan Poles, what is a head coach contract? 4 years, 5 years? You envision him still being the GM all 4 or 5 of those years still, yes? Because you're anticipating success. Maybe not Super Bowl, but better success. Offensively, developing Caleb, blah, blah, blah. We're on the same page there, yeah? Generally speaking?
Yep.
So I think what I'm about to say then, we're on the same exact page from what you just said. I kind of want to top your point off, is I think where we're at with Ryan Poles is I don't think he's going to get fired, nor should he just yet, unless he just completely fucking anchors himself to Eberflus and doesn't fire him, either mid-year or after the year. Then he's gone. But his leash is so much shorter than it would have been if you asked me in August. In August, same page as you. Oh, he gets the whole 4 or 5 years with the next head coach, 100%. You continue to build this thing. He still has picks to go and young guys to develop.
Extension.
And you might even give him an extension. That's what I mean. No fucking way. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't think it will happen. But you have to live in a world where you're comfortable if you're, I don't know who makes the decision, if it's Warren or if it's George, but you may have to think, do we completely clean the house to match everything up again? Because what are they going to do? What if Poles, the more draft picks aren't good, he can't build the O-line, but Ben Johnson comes in and he's doing well given the circumstances? You're going to fire the GM and keep the coach. I mean, like, how much of this overlap are you going to continue to go on? I'm not advocating for it, but there certainly has to be thoughts bubbling up in the decision makers' heads. It would be for me.
It's a question. It's a question, and I think, again, I'm really just sitting here, and I know a lot of other Bears fans are as well, wondering what exactly Kevin Warren's role is on this team, like in this organization. Like, he's the president. He has not influenced anything on the football side. He also hasn't done anything on the stadium side.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even close to getting that done, which is what he was primarily hired for. I'm a little bit concerned, right? Because I think the safest play right now, currently at 9:20 p.m. on November 11th, I'm dating this podcast. The safest route forward is you keep Ryan Poles, you let him make another head coaching hire. Because what I think it would be a mistake is to completely clean house, because to your point, you talked about resetting everything. You wouldn't be resetting everything because of Caleb. And you run the risk of bringing in a GM who maybe isn't as sold on Caleb as Ryan Poles would be.
I get what logically, you're not wrong. There's no fucking ways.
I get what you're potentially saying, in the sense that it's very unlikely that there is a GM out there who would want Caleb Williams. I'm just saying you run that risk. Now, obviously, you run that risk with the head coach as well. We saw that, right? Matt Nagy, Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, they didn't want anything to do with Justin Fields. We understand that. You run that risk with the head coach, but at least there's two of the three continuity pieces. Now, Ben Johnson reportedly was interested in the Bears head coaching position, or he would have been in the head coaching position in the offseason if Matt Eberflus had been let go. He would have been interested. So that, to me, if you're able to get that thing done, you're able to bring in Ben Johnson, I feel like you're on a good track then. But it has to be Ben Johnson. It can't be Bobby Slowick, right? It can't be the head coach of the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. His name escapes me currently. Ted Monken.
Yep, Monken. Yep.
It can't be, any of these. It has to be the guy that everybody says is the guy that you want. It just, to me, it has to be. But what I will say, though, is if the Bears decided to move on from Ryan Poles, Frank, I'm not going to act like I would be that surprised or really even that upset, I guess. And now I might be in my feelings a little bit. Ryan Poles has done some good work. But this season, the way it's been playing out, the way he's addressed the offensive line or lack thereof, it really brings me to question, like, what is he seeing what we're seeing?
Yeah.
And that makes me kind of like, would it really be the worst thing if they moved on and just kind of realign this thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. We may be in our fifis right now, but the video is resurfacing again of him at the beginning of the year when they asked. It wasn't even directed towards him. I think it was directed towards Eberflus of like, essentially like, how the fuck did you keep your job? And he's like snaps him and he's like, because we need continuity and like he's our guy and we have faith in it. And it's like, and it sounded good then, and not that we believed it at all, but him hitching his wagon to this guy is so fucking weird, man. Like I get like, the episode of Hard Knocks, I really appreciated when he had to cut that dude, the safety, and he was crying and he was just like, listen, like some just hit you harder because you develop these relationships and you have an affinity for somebody and you're rooting for him. But realistically, you have to make the tough call. I get that being the case for coaches too. Like, you like this guy. And again, I hate the need to even say it. Like, I do think Eberflus is a good dude. He seems like a good, nice guy. Like, even like last year, remember when he was there, he's like, yeah, we got something up our sleeve. And the reporter was like, well, what's up your sleeve? He's like, well, what's up yours? You know, like, he has these moments, you're like, oh, he's got a little personality to him. I can see people liking him as a person. He's not an asshole. He didn't come across as anything like that, but that may be why a GM does have an affinity for him and is rooting for him. But dude, you've got like, at the end of the day, are you really going to pick this head coach over the guy that, I mean, people deemed, us included, I want to act like we weren't a part of that, the greatest trade of all time? The greatest trade of this century, of this generation? Like, you're going to let him ruin year one and potentially ruin the development of this guy? It's because we're seeing it happen. We were just talking about it in the beginning of the podcast. We're seeing it before our eyes. The same exact thing is happening. And you're okay with hitching your wagon. Honestly, that's another thing, really quick, Jack. I know you were going to interject there. That's another thing that I do want to take back. I said last week, like, I don't really care about firing Flus because, like, who the fuck is going to be the coach? I don't even care. Like, I hit the more that I thought about it and the more that I'm sitting here watching Caleb become hesitant and not be the guy that we knew him to be coming out. This isn't a speed of the game thing. This isn't him not knowing what he's seeing. When you watch the film, he's looking at guys like he's the film has been better to him than almost anybody else because he has a high IQ. He knows what he's seeing pre and post snap. I'm seeing the same thing happen to Justin to a more talented passer.
Yeah. And what I was just going to interject was the season, Frank, again, it's not over. They're 4-5. All of your division games are in front of you. And if Ryan Poles genuinely believes that this coaching staff has what it takes in the current state of affairs with what all of the players have said, what all of the body language has been, if they truly believe that this coaching staff can turn things around mid-season, they're living in a different reality. It's again the case of, well, I'm a GM in the NFL. How could you possibly know more than me? And it's shit like that gets people fired. It's just the inability to look yourself in the mirror, to take that accountability, to say, we owe our fans more. And I'm just tired of this Bears franchise acting like they've earned the right to act better than everybody else in the league. Like, it's absurd. When you hear the things that these guys say, and like you see the locker room and you see the body language, like, to act like fans just don't know what they're seeing is it's so disrespectful to people who put time and money and everything into this shitty franchise that's done nothing since what, 2006?
Yeah. 06, 07.
And even then they fucking lost.
Yeah.
So
the
like it's a joke, man. It's just a joke.
I think we've, outside of like little funny jokes on both sides, we've largely avoided politics on this podcast. We're a fucking Bears podcast, right? But it's so funny, Jack, given the climate that we're in. You just described the Democrats.
Yeah.
The Bears are the Democratic Party.
Yeah, they are. They are, even though they definitely 100% supported, not taxing the rich, but because they wouldn't tell you that because they're this mom and pop franchise and they're just nice people. And how could they possibly fire a guy like Matt Eberflus mid-season? You can't do that. You gotta show some class and respect. And when the Packers are drumming your asses 35-3 next week, and you come back and tell me, no, we got to find the whys. I hope they find it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we want to keep the analogy going, Bruce Arians was probably our Bernie, yeah? And we were just like, nah, here's Hillary. Go get in there, Hill Dog. Last year, Ben Johnson, was Biden supposed to be dropping out in 2022? Nah, come on, he's sharp as a tack. He can't put together a coherent sentence, but he's got us, baby.
It's a little sickening how accurate this might be. No, dude, it's bad, and it's so disappointing because it's just so avoidable. Like, I just why is this franchise like this?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because
I mean, it's ownership. We know that. We know
of
it's
course.
ownership. We know it's
Yep.
Virginia. We know it's George. They don't know what they're
Well,
doing.
it's
They
primarily
trust
George.
people they
Virginia's
shouldn't.
just a walking corpse. She just does nothing.
Ernie
No
Corso,
offense.
Bill Polian,
Yeah.
just all of this nonsense. It's just we trust they not we. I'm not going to I'm not lumping myself in with them. They trust people that they shouldn't.
Yep.
And it gets them into trouble, and they refuse to adapt. They refuse to change. They refuse to do things the right way because they don't know what the right way ultimately looks like.
Yep. Oh, I mean, or on the flip end to that, they know what the right way is, or like they I don't want to say that because if everyone knows it, who knows it, right? Like, but like they know they could be tougher and make harsher decisions, and they're just too scared to. I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's the other portion of it. But it's very funny, Jack. You're talking about like how are we here again, and I'm right there with you. I'm the only times this past week that I got mad were the like handful of throws that Caleb just missed, and I know like the larger picture is it's really not ultimately on him. Is the O line's bad, the OC's been bad, play calling's been bad, but there's times where like receivers are open and I'm like, Caleb, I don't give a fuck what's happening. I need you to hit that throw. And those are the only times twice that I got mad. I like hit my leg on one. And I was like, motherfucker, Caleb, you gotta hit it. And my wife after the game, she was like, you haven't really been getting so into the games. And I'm like, because I'm like, I can't even get invested. Like, and it's not like it's funny because I do feel like some people will use that as an out in life of like, yeah, I don't even really care. And I'm not telling you I don't care. I care deeply. I have a fucking Bears podcast. Like I care deeply about this team. But in terms of like it affecting my mood, no, that game was over at halftime. I knew it was done. Like there was just nothing. I mean, really, the first drive when we saw it. Yeah. I mean, we just saw what was happening. Like, yep, this is it. Here it is. It's. I mean, it's apathy. It's just there's nothing. I have no reason.
Yeah, and again, I think that's just so disappointing. Like,
yep.
To all the fans who were sitting in those stands, like to look those people in the eyes and to let them leave without a refund. It's just you took those people's money. Now, granted, they're stupid enough to go pay those ticket fees, but like you just take their money and you put that product on the field. And Kevin Warren, if he's such a fucking businessman, how does he not step in and be like, what is this product that you're asking me to sell? It's pure trash. This franchise will never change until ownership changes. And that's frustrating, Frank, because we can call for the GM to be fired. We can call for the head coach to be fired, but we can't do anything about ownership. And as Chicago sports fans, we know that because we've had two teams in a stranglehold for the last 20 years. Like the White Sox and the Bulls have been held hostage by Jerry Reinsdorf, and the Bears have been held hostage by this McCaskey family for longer.
I mean, it seems like the Cubs are in that same ballpark now with the Ricketts. They obviously got us the World Series, so they're always gonna have a special place in my heart. But then they decided that they wanted to fucking pay more money to the Trump campaign in 2020 than they did their fucking payroll.
Yeah,
like,
how can we sign Ohtani? We gotta use that money to get our guy elected. All right, can't be doing that. Come on now.
Oh Jesus, yeah. I mean, the state. I don't know if the state of Chicago sports has ever been this bad.
It's a dark time.
The White Sox just broke the record, and we're not Sox fans by any means, but again, I think we both share the sentiment of like it's good when both teams are competing. The city's is a different vibe in the summer when the Cubs and White Sox are competing in this town. It doesn't happen often.
Something else to talk about than just just this black hole. I actually have a stat for you real quick, Frank. If you combine, this is from Jack_BFR on Twitter. If you combine every sports team in Chicago, 158 to 265 losses, 3 all-star players, 4 new head coaches, 4 in-season trades, and what is it? $884 million paid in salaries, 0 playoff appearances.
What's funny is that if Reinsdorf wasn't cheap, because he's the only owner in baseball that has not given out a $100 million contract, if he actually paid, it would be $1 billion easily. Yeah. Easily $1 billion, because they should have had. I mean, they were like finalists for Bryce Harper some years ago. They were finalists for Manny Machado. They're always finalists on guys, and they're like, "Oh shit, you want $400 million? Never mind. I thought you were gonna be here for 90."
And it's literally just it's just make that meme where it's Nathan for you, where you just put all of the owners' faces onto that body and just Bears fans, whatever, Chicago fans sitting down, and he's just like, I hope you're ready. And then he opens up the thing, and then it's just for nothing, because that's what the city is. They get us all hyped up for the seasons that we just sit through, and man, like it's just frustrating because like I was so ready to be done with the bring back Lovey, because I'm seeing it again, Frank. Ever since this team fired Lovey, he won 10 games that season. Do you remember that? He won 10 games. They fired him after winning 10 games. It's like, just look, use your brain, do some research. If you're curious why they fired him after winning 10 games, look it up. It's on Google. They started 7-1 and missed the playoffs. Stop. Just stop. And if I see one more fucking thing about Ron Rivera, I'm losing it, Frank. I'm gonna fucking lose it. Look at what the Commanders are doing after firing him. You want that guy? You want the guy that wasn't good? No. Stop. Move past the 85 Bears, but we can't, Frank, because no other team will ever get close to that summit.
My bar, and I feel like yours is as well. It's so low, dude. We could legitimately, I swear, I mean, because we had it. The 3-win team, Justin made that team fun. At least for, the middle of that schedule. Like, there were some games you're like, fuck. And even like a player to a game, he just did something other fucking worldly as an athlete. And it's like, I just want to be watchable, dude. Having these games where we have a fucking quarterback going into the fourth quarter with 80 yards passing. Be a modern offense, man. That's it. Be a modern offense. Be a watchable team. It doesn't have to light the world on fire. Just be watchable.
Lions throw 5 interceptions and win a game.
Yeah. Could you imagine if Caleb threw 5 picks against any team in this league? We would lose by like 60.
That's why Matt Eberflus won't let him do it. Don't say that out loud, Frank.
Yeah. Well, but again, I know you're joking, but just for the people who've made it this far into this podcast, the problem with that is it's that sort of the risk it for the biscuit. Like, yes, you're preventing, he has no turnovers over the last 3 games, but he also has 0 fucking touchdowns. It's exactly what I'm talking about. You're also not you have to take risks for good things to happen. That's how this league works. Taking 0 risks lose you the game 19-3. What would have been the difference if Caleb aired it out more downfield? 21-3? He throws a pick 6, it's 26-3?
Just don't see it. We just don't see it because the offensive line can't block because they're all hurt, but the depth is good. But I'm so tired of having these conversations. I would love to have analyzed the game this week.
Same.
Oh, DeAndre Swift, he did this. DJ Moore, I thought he could have made a better, in cut on this route. Caleb, if he plants his feet and really rips it in there, maybe it's a complete, it's just, we can't talk about the game. We have to always be talking about the franchise and why they're embarrassment. And you have Packers fans who are just like, hey, you excited for Sun? And it's like, I can't tell if they're joking or if they're just like really just living in it. It's just, this is a horrible place to be. And I hope that on some level, some people in that organization are embarrassed about what is going on. I have to assume that. I have to hope there are some people out there who are embarrassed about what this team is doing right now. I have to believe that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because it's just, this team was supposed to make the... I can't even say it again. I don't know why I'm doing it. I don't know why I'm getting frustrated. I don't know why I let these people do this to me, Frank.
Yeah, I mean,
as
again,
Bears fans, we should be better than this.
I did think this was a playoff-ready roster, so I'm not disputing that. But again, even if they had the same exact record as last year, but the offense played way better, forget stats, just look-wise. I just want eye candy on Sundays. That's it. I just want to watch my team and be like, holy fuck, that's my team. Instead of, holy fuck, that's my team. It's a totally different vibe.
You look at Thursday, like that game on Thursday, Ravens-Bengals, and you just, as a Bears fan, I don't even think you could comprehend ever being close to that again. Because
no,
to be fair, they were there in 2013, right? With Cutler, Trustman, they were there. That offense was there. It was just the defense was one of the historically worst defenses ever. it's just, if you look at modern, like what I think I texted you, it was like 5 minutes left to go in the third quarter, and Caleb had like 76 passing yards
I know.
in 2024. I mean,
Yep.
what, like, it's just like, it's just so Bears. It's just so Bears.
It's yeah, I mean, I said it last week in a different context, but this is all just the Bears. And again, if this all fails, I mean, Eberflus is getting fired at some point, whether this year or whether mid-season or at the end of the year. There's just no, I refuse to even live in a world. No, Jack, I'm just going to say, if he's not fired, we're ending this podcast. There's literally nothing for us to podcast about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if those reports of him having a 5th year on his contract,
but I don't care,
or 4th year, whatever it is, third, no, it'd be 5th.
It'd be a 5th.
If that 5th year is accurate, if that is true, I will, and he's retained, I'm spinning the wheel. I'm spinning the team wheel.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Because I can't do this. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but so again, my point was,
I wish they had traded for Russell Wilson. I wish they had traded for Russell Wilson, and we would have just been done. We would have just been done with this.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But my point is, let's live in the world, because I think it will happen. I just can't live in a world where it doesn't happen, where he's gone. I don't have faith that if they hire Ben Johnson will find a way to all of a sudden forget how to call plays.
Those 5-pick games will just be the norm.
It'll be the norm. Like, it's those are my expectations moving forward with this team. And unless Caleb is Tom Brady or whoever the fuck he can be, Patrick Mahomes, and just completely saves it, and doesn't matter who the coach is and who the OC is. I was gonna make this point earlier, but we went a little bit. I wish he was the diva that people thought he was. I want him to push back on Flus. I want him to say, "Fuck you, I'm slinging this bitch." I want that. We deserve that. Slay Queen.
Yeah. I mean, I at this point, like, it's so jarring hearing him talk in his presser versus.
It is
when people ask Caleb, and they're like, "Hey man, like, what are some give us some specifics, like what could you be doing better?" And he just breaks down everything, and he's just like, "Well, on this play I could have done this, on this," and it's like, that's real accountability, instead of just, "Well, what are you taking accountability for, coach?" Everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing.
Yeah, it's so fucking ridiculous. Jackie, wrap us up, dude. I went into this podcast saying I wouldn't be upset. Now I'm upset.
I have never felt worse, Frank, going into a Packers week than this week. Like, and maybe that's a good thing, right? Like maybe that's a good thing, because for the last maybe since like 2018, we've hyped ourselves up a few times. We've been like, all right, here we go. Packers week, They ain't shit. We're better. We've never been this good. And we just get the doors broken off, and we look like clowns. So hopefully, with these low expectations, maybe they can show us a little something. When Thomas Brown is out there and he's calling slants and he's calling screens, and Cole Kmet gets more than 2 targets in a game, and we're back on track, maybe they have a chance to beat the Packers.
Yeah, dude, with
these low expectations. Just let me live in this.
No, I know. I'm with you. I hope you're right. I'm right there with you. But we have been podcasting for an hour and 15 minutes, and we didn't even fucking touch on the misutilization of players in this offense. So, I mean, that's if Thomas Brown certainly is the or Kerry Joseph. Kerry Joseph.
Yep.
Okay. Why do I keep calling him Joseph Kerry? Anyway,
that's all the respect he deserves currently until he shows.
Oh, come on. I like the fella. But whoever the next play caller is, that's going to be the immediate thing that jumps off the page for me. So we'll talk about, hopefully next week we can see some change and we can break the game down. But that is what I'm looking forward to. We're not beating the Packers. It's over. The game's over with already. Put in and bet the house on Green Bay. But
yeah,
I need to see Keenan be our slot guy and him only having the option routes, and our X and Y be more in a Dunze, like immediately. And you let Cole eat the middle of the field. That's it. This is common sense shit that we need from our next play caller. And if that doesn't happen, Eberflus has way too much influence because there's no way that 3 play callers can't get this figured out.
Also, DeAndre Swift maybe catch the ball more than once.
Oh yeah, him too.
Game.
Or just stick to the fucking run because it's been working. I don't know. That's a weird concept.
He gets like 8 yards a run, and then they just go back to passing. It's over. Yeah, you're right. This Packers. Yeah, I'm not even going to say what I normally say and say. Hopefully, we're talking about a Bears win against the Packers. Hopefully, we're talking about at least a watchable offense against the Packers. Right, like that's where we're at.
Just
that's
fucking
how
move
low
the ball in
this
between
bar
the 20s. Like that is a bad offense. Do people realize that? No, honestly, the difference between a like bad or below average offense is a team that can move between the 20s and they struggle heavily in the red zone. And then the good red zone teams are the ones that are elite offenses. Just move the ball in between the 20s. And I don't give a fuck if they turn the ball over in the red zone, keep going to shotgun runs, and have to settle for field goals. Move the ball, just move the ball. That's it. Move the ball in between the 20s and I'll be happy. That's how fucking low my bar is.
Right? It's a home game, right?
Are they at Soldier?
I think they are. I think they are. They are. Yeah, they're at home the next 2 weeks. Packers, Vikings, and then they go on the road to Detroit.
Yep.
So, I cannot wait for here. I'm going to predict the first drive.
Oh, Jesus.
Predict the first drive. They're going to run the ball with Swift. 3-yard gain. You're like, okay. Caleb is going to step back to pass. And he's going to throw it out to DJ Moore, who either drops it or it's just too far for him to catch.
Yep.
And then Caleb's going to drop back and get sacked for an 8-yard loss, and they're going to punt.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And the booing will be just so incredible. And also, DJ Moore, stop talking about booing. Fans booing. Stop being like, oh, I don't understand why fans would be booing. Like, come on, man. Live in reality with us, please. Please. I beg you. This is going to be brutal. This is going to be so bad. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Bear With Us podcast. We do genuinely appreciate the love and the support that we have gotten. Feel free to leave some comments about things that frustrated you. Where are you guys at on Ryan Poles? Are you in? Are you out? Should we be a little bit more patient? I genuinely do want to know where our listeners are at, our supporters are at, because I'm genuinely so curious where other Bears fans are. I think I have an idea, but we'll see. One last thing I want to throw in there, Frank, because I know that I've gotten a couple of texts from people telling me that I'm overreacting in terms of wanting people like fired, etc. Mid-season, give people some time, etc., etc. The fact that Bears media, like you were mentioning the Hogan Johns podcast, the fact that those two guys are already out and calling for change tells you all you need to know, because media personalities are so much more lenient. They're so much more patient than fans, because they're not fans. They're just, this is how things work in the NFL. You have to give it some time. We've seen that. The fact that there are media people calling for the same thing that fans are calling for tells you, again, all you need to know. And that's where I'll leave it.
Yep. All right, Jackie. Well, like you said, like, share, subscribe. Hopefully we're talking about a
Packers.
watchable
I hope
offense.
they win by 50. I hope the Packers win by 50. Let's get this thing on the road here.
There's another political analogy that I'll save maybe for next week and all of that, and us rooting for the Packers. All right, y'all. Later, Jackie. Later, everybody.